Shooting. Killing. Death. Not dying.
Agent down.
That lovely.
Yuck, yuck, yuck!
Okay, sometimes dying, but it's got all the things that you want in a build, and it has a cool name that all the kids will love.
Bruh.
I've done it again, Mom!
Hello,
Plum here, g'day champions, how's it going? And welcome back to another Division 2 build video. The other day during one of my live streams, I was asked if I had any capacitor builds that was using something other than Umbra or the Ninja Backpack. My simple answer at the time was no. The capacitor is a very flexible weapon, so it got me thinking, what else could I be using? So I simply slapped together this build and I was really surprised with how it went. The build itself is nothing new, but this setup is something that I've personally not used before. Sitting just under 1.7 million in armor, this thing's got a ton of survivability and we're also packing that damage. We're rocking 60% crit hit chance, 174% crit hit damage, along with 17% damage to armor, and 10% damage to targets out of cover too. It's a bit of a beast. We are going to check out some more gameplay and then we'll be back with the full build breakdown in just a moment. So, enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention please? I'm sorry, but the police are here. They've asked us to stop the party.
Fuck off!
Wow.
It's time!
Tom Cruise using witchcraft on me to get the fire off me!
Not bad at all. Righto, so welcome back to all you amazing subscribers, and if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, make sure that you smash that subscribe button. If everyone can take a second to engage with the video, a like, a share, a comment, it's all going to help with the magic and the wizardry of the YouTube algorithm. Hitting our goal of 200 likes on this video would be absolutely amazing. If you do want to support me and the channel just a little bit further, we now have channel memberships. Just click the join button below to see all the perks. And if you want to catch me live in action, jump on over and drop a follow on Twitch. All the links for all my other socials are in the description below. Righto champions, with all that said and done, let's check out this build. We have 1 red, 5 blues, no skill tiers, and we are sitting just under 1.7 million in armor. We're rocking the Catharsis mask, 2 pieces of Walker, Hikaru's holster, 1 Gruppo, and 1 Seska. Pretty straightforward build. Because we've been using this in Conflict, you don't need to worry about your SHD watch levels or your expertise on this build. Both those values have been removed completely from Conflict, so you know that this one's going to be great for newer players or lower level players. Obviously, if you want to use this build outside of Conflict, go ahead, expertise the shit out of it. For the specialization, you could go a few different ways. I've personally gone with Firewall. I think that armor kit is just too strong not to use. Enemies will also take an extra 10% damage from our team when they're within 10 meters of us, and we also get that 30% bonus armor during cover-to-cover moves known as Bull Rush. Very, very handy against status players. For our primary weapon, we're going to be using the Capacitor. This thing is a beast, I love it. The great thing about this gun is it comes with both damage to armor and damage to targets out of cover, which are both great multiplicative damages. Now, the talent on this gun on this setup doesn't really do much for us. However, if you did want to use Technician, you would be getting a further 7.5% weapon damage. But as I said before, I think that Firewall armor kit is just too strong not to use. For our secondary, I am using a light glue shotgun. This hasn't been maxed out and there hasn't been any expertise on it. The talent on this is Perfect Brazen. You get 3% amplified damage on the next shot with the weapon for each pellet that hits the target, if at least 4 pellets hit. Killing an enemy will also provide a further plus 8% amplified damage on the next shot. As you saw during some of that gameplay, I did swap to this rather than reloading just for that quick finish. Now for the gear on the build, you're probably all familiar with this one. This is the Catharsis. Comes with armor, incoming repairs, armor regen, and I've gone with a crit hit damage mod. The talent is called Vicious Cycle. Taking damage builds up stacks to cap at 30. Each stack will give you 1% weapon damage, and taking damage at max stacks triggers a purge. The purge removes all stacks and status effects and then drops a healing cloud which restores 5% of your max armor for 10 seconds for you and all your allies. This can definitely come in clutch when up against status players, but it's also going to be very handy when just fighting people with guns. For our chest piece, we've got our first piece of Walker. Walker's going to give us 5% weapon damage and 5% damage to armor. Damage to armor is multiplicative or amplified damage. We've got max armor, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and we've gone with a crit hit chance mod. For our talent, we've gone with Unbreakable. When our armor is depleted, it repairs 50% of our armor back. Very, very handy talent. There's definitely other talents that you could go for here. If you wanted more damage, Obliterate's a great one, or if you wanted a bit more survivability, things like Efficient is also good. For our holster, we've gone with the Picaros. This one comes with armor, crit hit damage, and it has that fixed 15% weapon damage. Next update, this does reduce to 10% weapon damage, so personally, I'd probably swap this out for a Fenris. For our knee pads, we've got our 1 piece of Seska for that 10% crit hit chance. It has max armor, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. Pretty straightforward. And for the gloves, we have our 1 piece of Gruppo for that 15% crit hit damage. Again, pretty straightforward. Armor, crit hit damage, crit hit chance. And for the last item on the build, it is our backpack, which is our second piece of Walker, and this one has max weapon damage, crit hit chance, and a crit hit damage mod. The talent that I've opted for here is Vigilance. Increases total weapon damage by 25%, however, taking damage will disable this buff for 4 seconds. So honestly, I think my playstyle of running and trying to face tank a lot of people isn't the most effective way of using it, but it did work in most situations. There are other backpack talents that you could use, but when I was making this build, this was the first option that I went with. So that's the build. Now when it comes to your skills, it is going to be player preference. I've gone with the defender drone. That's just going to add even more survivability to the build. And because we all know that everyone loves to run status builds in Conflict, I've gone with the booster hive. I personally haven't really used much of this before, so I am still getting the hang of using it, and it's been working really well on this setup to counter those status players. Righto champions, it is now fine print time. It's time for our stats. There you go, we are at 60% crit hit chance, which is the crit hit chance cap. Now, like I said before, in Conflict, our SHD points are removed. But that's going to drop us back to 50% crit hit chance, but I think that's a perfect spot to be. Again, if you want to run this build outside of Conflict, go for it, just swap out a mod or two if you need to. Our starting crit hit damage is 174%, again, this is going to get reduced a little bit in Conflict. We've also got 17% damage to armor, again, multiplicative, amplified damage. And we've also got another 10% damage to targets out of cover as well. For our all weapon damage, we've got 45% and we have 30% AR damage. We're also going to be getting that damage buff from the Catharsis Mask and also from Vigilance when active. So as you can see, there's definitely a heap of damage on this build. Now you don't need to worry about these values being decreased in Conflict because of expertise, because we haven't expertised into any of our weapons. Again, I can't stress enough, if you are using this build outside of Conflict, expertise it if you can. But if you haven't yet quite got your expertise level up and you're just PvPing in Conflict, then this is going to be the build for you. And just to round it off, there you go, the defensive stats, as I said, just under 1.7 million armor. So that's the build champions, a build I just slapped together and it works so goddamn good. The combination of the capacitor along with the Catharsis Mask, Unbreakable and Vigilance is a setup that I haven't used before, but I'm really loving it. We've got heaps of survivability, there's heaps of damage, and it requires zero expertise, so you know that this build's going to be perfect for newer or lower level players. But the most important thing about this build is it's a lot of bloody fun. So what do you reckon? Are you going to be a champion and have a crack at this build? What modifications would you make? Let me know down below. Thanks for tuning in champions, and make sure that you show your support by smashing the like button on this video, and if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe. Everyone's support is always greatly appreciated. Remember to stay frosty, keep looting, shooting, and giving them hell, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. I'm Plum out.